Yes, it's true. The Democrats are planning a new investigation into Donald Trump, and this is the worst possible time to do it. And according to Adam Schiff, they've already begun preliminary fact finding, which would suggest the investigation is already underway. In the meantime, Chuck Schumer, Democrat from New York, has been very critical of Trump, and it seems like they have no idea what they're talking about. Both Biden and Schumer have made comments that were immediately refuted, claiming things like a military commander should be in charge of testing, to which the White House was like, that's exactly who's in charge of testing. Like, what are you talking about? So Schumer apparently sends this letter to Trump, and Trump decides to respond with a White House letter, April 2nd, nuking the Democrats from orbit. Listen, man, this is not policy. This is not liberal conservative. This is people doing stuff and people not doing stuff. Nowhere in this is Trump saying we should have more taxes or less taxes or pro-life or pro-choice or anything like that. There's no real policy position on whether or not these people are liberal or conservative. They're just bickering. So let me tell you my beef with the Democrats right now. I got no beef because with policy, because they're not talking about policy. Trump right now is working on the coronavirus pandemic. Most Americans support him in his effort, thinking he's doing the best he can. I happen to agree. You see the media trying to lie and smear, and it's really annoying how people, these default liberal types, just don't pay attention and they forget. They forget the news media on January 27th. Media Matter saying Fox News was fear-mongering about the coronavirus. Today, they say Fox News is downplaying the coronavirus. Both can't be true, you morons. But let me read you this letter. Chuck Schumer is appalled, dare I say, harumph. He's shocked that the president would resort to such partisan bickering, saying we need an unpolitical response. I'm sorry, dude. Pelosi and Schiff are launching investigations into the president, and you want to act, you want to ride in on your high horse? Now listen, this letter from Donald Trump, it's kind of hilarious. It is. This is the politics we deserve. Let me read for you this letter, so you can see how Donald Trump has officially nuked them from orbit. He writes, "Dear Senator Schumer, thank you for your Democrat public relations letter and incorrect sound bites, which are wrong in every way. 1. As you are aware, Vice President Pence is in charge of the task force. By almost all accounts, he has done a spectacular job. 2. The Defense Production Act has been consistently used by my team and me for the purchase of billions of dollars worth of equipment, medical supplies, ventilators, and other related items. It has been powerful leverage, so powerful that companies generally do whatever we are asking without even a formal notice. They know something is coming, and that's all they need to know. Right now, there's a story circulating. The whistleblower from the 3M Corporation said they were selling masks to foreign governments. Trump tweeted something about invoking the Production Act to make them stop doing this. But the main issue is we keep seeing people say, why won't Trump invoke the Defense Production Act? Because he doesn't need to. So my understanding of what's happening is when Trump goes to one of these companies and says, we want you to make masks, they go, you got it, buddy. That's it. No, like they're not arguing. The Defense Production Act is to make them do it. But if they agree to voluntarily do it, Trump doesn't need to do anything. But yes, then we'll see politicians be like, Trump isn't invoking the act. Why would he just arbitrarily do that? That's absurd. And in fact, he is. Number 3, a senior military officer is in charge of purchasing, distributing, etc. His name is Rear Admiral John Palauchik. He is working 24 hours a day and is highly respected by everyone. If you remember, my team gave you this information, but for public relations purposes, you choose to ignore it. We have given New York many things, including hospitals, medical centers, medical supplies, record numbers of ventilators, and more. You should have had New York much better prepared than you did. And as Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx said yesterday, New York was very late in its fight against the virus. As you are aware, the federal government is merely a backup for the state governments. Unfortunately, your state needed far more of a backup than most others. Bill de Blasio's fault. Cuomo's fault. Look, Bill de Blasio deserves a ton of criticism. Cuomo deserves a little. Trump deserves a little. Cuomo said, we're not going to do a lockdown. And they should have done a lockdown a long time ago. Bill de Blasio, Nancy Pelosi, many other Democrats were telling people to go out in public and wave and smile, go to Chinatown, buy stuff. What we're experiencing is a 2-week lag time due to the incubation period. You know how like when you're looking at a star, you're actually seeing the star from, billions of years ago or whatever? That supernova in the sky actually happened a long, long time ago. It took a while for the light to get to you. It's kind of like that. Right now, we have a bunch of people who are infected. We don't know they're infected. In 2 weeks, the number will skyrocket and it's going to be scary. 2 weeks after that, we may be past the peak because we've been locked down. The problem, I am seeing photos and videos emerging all the time. Crowded trains in New York. So yeah, it's not going to end in the next month, I would predict. But I'll tell you right now, New York is getting hit bad. It's not Trump's fault that people are ignoring your lockdown order. Seriously, Google the videos. There's people packed shoulder to shoulder in trains. I'm not going to tell you what they should or shouldn't do. I don't like any of the authoritarianism. There was some crazy story where a guy was paddle boating up by himself and they arrested the guy. There's like literally no one anywhere. They arrested the guy. I get it. The idea is that like if one person does it, a bunch of other people might come and do it. Fine. But if there's a problem going on and they're attacking Trump for this, Trump isn't the frontline government for what's happening in New York City. Trump, as he states, is the backup. Makes sense to me. And he's still working on it. Look, you can argue that someone could have done a better job. Fine. But Bill de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, then Trump. That's the order of how things are supposed to be going. Trump isn't supposed to just come in and supersede de Blasio. De Blasio was the one telling people to go party. Here's where it gets good. He says, if you spent less time on your ridiculous impeachment hoax, which went haplessly on forever and ended up going nowhere except increasing my poll numbers, and instead focused on helping the people of New York, then New York would not have been so completely unprepared for the invisible enemy. No wonder AOC and others are thinking about running against you in the primary. If they did, they would likely win. Whoo, spicy. Fortunately, we have been working with your state and city governments, Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Bill de Blasio, to get the job done. You have been missing in action, except when it comes to the press. While you have stated that you don't like Andrew Cuomo, you ought to start working alongside him for the good of all New Yorkers. I've known you for many years, but I never knew how bad a senator you are for the state of New York until I became president. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call, or in the alternative, call Rear Admiral Palauchik. Sincerely yours, Donald J. Trump. Now, that is what I call a nuke from orbit. It would seem people like Schumer missing in action. I mean, he's a senator. I don't know what you'd expect him to be doing right now. I think the governor and the mayor, first Bill de Blasio, then Cuomo, then Trump. That's the order of who should be handling this stuff. I don't know what Schumer's supposed to be doing, but it seems like he's not even paying attention. For him to come out and be like, why don't we have a military person? And then Trump's like, what are you talking about? It's a rear admiral who's running this thing. And the same for Biden. It's like none of these people actually pay attention. But I think it's one of two things. It's possible that there are many passive liberals. Like, we talked about this on the podcast last night, Timcast IRL podcast. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We do the show every 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. But we were talking about how passive liberals are just kind of doting about their business. They don't pay attention. They're not really reading the news. And that's a serious risk because these people aren't going to be prepared for what's happening. It's possible that people like Biden and Schumer are passive. They don't pay attention to the news. They have no idea what's going on. So when they do come out and say stuff, they're like 2 weeks behind what's actually happening. And that would make sense. So here's what we get now. Trump in all of his, arrogant but humorous fashion, appalled, Schumer says. Appalled. Schumer is appalled over Trump letter. Stop the pettiness. But we can start with you? Come on, man. You can't do investigation after investigation and then accuse the president of doing things, of not doing things he's literally doing, and then get mad when he calls you out for it. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, said he was appalled over a letter from President Trump in which the president criticized the Democratic leader as a bad senator and vulnerable to a primary challenge from the left. I love it. Oh, man. Spicy. Trump released the letter to Schumer after the New York senator sent his own letter asking the president to name a military official as a czar to oversee production and disbursement of medical equipment and invoke the Defense Production Act. Face palm. I spoke to the president late this afternoon and explained it. And the result is this letter. So I'm just appalled. I say to the president, just stop the pettiness. People are dying. And so, President Trump, we need leadership. We need to get the job done. Stop the pettiness, Schumer told MSNBC's Chris Hayes on Thursday night. I sent the letter with the best intentions. Yeah, dude, if you're 2 weeks behind what's going on and you're like, you show up like the ninth inning and you're like, I've been here helping the whole time. It's like, dude, no, you weren't. You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what happened in the past. And now you're sending a letter to make it seem like you're useful. You then criticize the president. Meanwhile, Schiff and Pelosi are starting investigations into Trump. Right now, as people are dying, as you said, we don't need this. That's your party. Look, I get it. Schumer, you aren't Pelosi, you aren't Schiff, but why don't you call them out and say, stop it. Stop the partisan stupidity and let the president do his job. And why don't you help him do his job if you think he's doing it bad? This is what really bothers me. My shout out, at least to as far as he deserves it, to Joe Scarborough, who has praised the president a couple times now, MSNBC host. He said, we must support the president, help him succeed. And later he said Trump's decision to push back the lockdown was smart. It will save lives. Absolutely. That's what we should be saying. If Schumer came out and said, I think the president could have done a better job, but President Trump, I am here, ready and able. Let me know what you need. I'd be like, bravo, good sir, bravo. Let's set aside the pettiness. If Schiff came out in all of his glorious pettiness, I'll throw it back at him, and said, as much as, I'm critical of Trump, his companies and all of these things, now is the time for us to stand together. I am ready and waiting for any help you might need on the coronavirus pandemic. We can get back to our disagreements politically after this is resolved. I'd be like, wow, bravo, good sir. That's not what we get. While Trump is actively setting aside his campaign, and Bernie Sanders is too, to provide relief for this stuff, we can see what we really get from the establishment Democrats. Look, I don't like Bernie Sanders' policies, but at least he's fundraising for coronavirus, and he gets my respect for that. Anybody, I don't care what your politics are, you want to come out right now and help save lives? Bravo. End of story. That's it. We can argue later. We can save lives today. But Schiff and Pelosi, what are they doing? Well, Pelosi went out and said, everybody come have a big gathering. That's right. Like I said earlier, we're looking at a 2-week delay, right? Because of the incubation period. So when Pelosi and these other Democrat politicians encouraged everyone to come out and celebrate and go to Chinatown and go and order food and all that stuff, you know what was actually happening? They were actively making it worse because 2 weeks later, these people now get sick. Did you know that in Spain on March 8th, they had on March 2nd, Spain and Europe had been warned by the European CDC not to have large gatherings. On March 8th, feminists went out in a massive march of hundreds of thousands of people. And now the government is facing criminal complaints. To what extent that goes, I don't know what that really means. But people are upset because now Spain is like the second worst hit nation in the world because you allow these people to do this. So I'll tell you what. Pelosi and all these other politicians who are going around saying, come on, everybody, let's go get together. De Blasio even. I'll set that aside. We didn't know. You want to say Trump downplayed it? That's fine. So did Pelosi. So did the media. We can put that aside and we can get the job done that needs to be done. So if Chuck Schumer wants to say Trump should stop being petty, okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't you go and tell Pelosi and Schiff to shut up and drop it and stand behind the president in an effort to save lives, and then you can yell at him later. Whether you like the guy or not, he's the president, so we need to make sure he does get the job done. If he's not doing a good job, instead of complaining about it all day, why don't you actually say, let me fix the things he's not doing right? No, we're going to investigate him. That doesn't help anybody. If Trump is supposed to be delivering, masks and test kits, and he's not doing a good enough job, then you should figure out how you can get those test kits delivered. You figure out how to get those masks. If you don't think he's invoking the Defense Production Act, instead of going on TV and just complaining, why don't you go to companies and lobby them to start making masks? So back over at the Schumer story, Schumer and Trump spoke twice by phone this afternoon, according to the Democratic senator's office. After Schumer explained what actions he was requesting Trump take, the president, according to Schumer's office, said he was already in the process of sending a very nasty letter to Senator Schumer, but he would try to stop it from going out and would apologize to Senator Schumer if he didn't stop it in time. Wow, interesting. The White House didn't immediately respond to a request for comment about the details of the phone call between Trump and Schumer. So it looks like Trump was ready to pull back, to say, okay, Schumer called me. It's a good faith. I'll try and stop the letter, but the letter went out anyway. Schumer, during a TV hit on Wednesday night and again in a letter Thursday, urged the president to put a military official in charge of overseeing the coronavirus supplies effort amid reports from states and hospitals that they are under-equipped for the growing number of cases. The existing federal leadership void has left America with an ugly spectacle in which states and cities are literally fending for themselves. They're supposed to. This is insane. You know what? It's like they act like the state and local governments don't exist. The first thing that needs to happen, if you live in a small town, if you live in a city, why would so what they're really saying, you know what? This really bothers me, is they're saying New York is more important than everyone else. That's what they're saying. That is literally what they're saying. What about Springfield, Ohio or something? I just chose Springfield because it's a generic name. But what if this is a small town, 4,000 or 5,000 people? Is it Trump's responsibility to go there and make sure they're enforcing lockdown orders and to provide supplies? Only after local government does. It is up to de Blasio and the local government, then the state government, and then Trump. He's not supposed to be the front line. He says, Schumer's office noted that that in his most recent phone call with Trump, Schumer explained how he had spoken with Peter Navarro, who has been tapped to enforce the DPA, but felt that person was not up to the job. He also told Trump that he was concerned about Rear Admiral John Palauchik, who is leading FEMA's supply chain task force. Trump lashed out at Schumer in his letter, accusing him of using incorrect sound bites when talking about the administration's efforts. If you spent less time on your ridiculous impeachment hoax. Oh, there it is again. Well, we read that one already. I think we all get the point. The Democrats are fractured. They're fighting amongst each other. Pelosi and Schiff. Pelosi is doing some kind of like oversight committee. Schiff is doing preliminary fact finding into an investigation on Trump's response. It is a major waste of our time. It's going to get nothing done and help no one. In fact, it will cost lives. So, I'm just, at this point, why would anyone vote for these people? I have no idea. There were a couple people that were running in the primary that I liked. And since this broke, the coronavirus happened, and how I see, Media Matters and all these other news outlets are reacting, blaming Fox News, blaming Trump. They downplayed it when they all literally did the same thing. My biggest fear now is if you elect any one of these Democrats, they will ignore what you need and they will immediately just start weaponizing things. Let me tell you why I feel this way. The most important thing for you to understand is that my opinions change. Every day there's a new story, all the time, right? You can look at older videos from me and my opinions will be different. My predictions will be different because I'm just giving you my thoughts on the current state of what's happening in this country. Right now, what do I see? I see President Donald Trump on January 29th launching a task force, on January 31st suspending travel from China. I see Joe Biden ignoring it. I see the Democrats ignoring it. I see impeachment. I see nothing from Democrats. When given the power of the House of Representatives, what did they do? They wasted everyone's time with an impeachment they knew would fail. To this day, while we are facing a serious crisis, and the president has brought together doctors, military personnel to distribute supplies, whether he's doing a good enough job or not, he's doing the job. And Pelosi and Schiff are doing investigations. And Schumer is 2 weeks behind what's actually happening, criticizing Trump for things that have already happened. They're not paying attention. They don't care. And all they're doing is slinging partisan mud. Now, yes, Donald Trump sent this letter. I personally don't find it appropriate. I think it's hilarious. I think, both those things can be true. And it does seem like, Schumer was saying Trump was going to try and pull that back. But Trump is responding to Schumer. Trump didn't initiate this. It seems like the only thing these Democrats know how to do is you give us power and we will cry about things. We won't get the job done. Now, as for the governors, Newsom, Cuomo, apparently they've been doing a pretty good job as well. So I'll tell you this, especially for Andrew Cuomo, my respect. As much as we can bicker on partisan issues, of course, there's been a back and forth between Cuomo and President Trump. I don't like that. I don't care who's doing it, if it's Trump or Cuomo, whatever. I do think Cuomo has played a little bit of politics. On the 6th, he said people were stealing masks. Then when Trump suggested people were stealing masks, he said, I don't even know what that's supposed to mean. Whatever, fine. Trump was talking about a quarantine. Cuomo said no. That stuff's less relevant to me. I don't like the partisan bickering from either individual. What I do like is that Cuomo has been having daily press conferences. He is focused on getting the job done. He is asking for the president for help. He has given the president respect when he's gotten what he needs. And Trump is doing similar. Although they don't get along for the most part, my respect to a Democrat and a Republican. They're both seemingly doing the best they can. Please stop the bickering between. We don't need it. As for the other Democrats, eye roll. What are they doing? Twiddling their thumbs, launching investigations? I cannot believe that. I hope you all remember this. When this is over in a few months, hopefully, you remember what they did during this crisis. They tried to impeach the president. Then they launched an investigation of the president. How in any way will that save lives in a crisis? That's it for me. That was like the final straw. Because I know that if I vote for one of these people for Congress, that gives them the power to do this again. They can only do it because they have the House. They have the majority. Nah, I'm over it. The next segment will be coming up at 1 p.m. I'll see you all there.